Welcome to the Chronic Spoonful podcast, where we discuss real life with real chronic illness. Each week, we'll cover an aspect of real life spoony living and what that can mean for different chronic illnesses. We hope this will be a place you can go for updated spoony info and where you'll find humor, because, we're a little crazy, important information, and community. As a disclaimer, we just want to remind you that yes, we'll be talking about chronic illness and health information, but we are not your doctor. Everyone's chronic illness is different, and we are absolutely not MDs, so we are not qualified to give you medical advice. We're going to tell you unequivocally to discuss anything we talk about on this podcast with your doctor. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Hope everyone had a great week. It was a special week here, all sunshine and roses, I suppose. Maybe. It was a fun week. I'm having a fun, cranky mood. So as Nicole knows, I'm just super happy. So we are going to kind of skip over our news for the week because it's been a very special month. It is Lupus Awareness Month. It is the last day of the month, so we didn't want to end May without making sure we covered lupus for this month. We covered EDS because for some reason it's both EDS Awareness and Lupus Awareness Month. Like, who decided that? Like, did we not coordinate well? What happened?
It's so true.
Like, who decided, did the rare disease people not have their conversations? But so we want to make sure we covered both. And so we're going to cover lupus today. And it also marks Nicole was diagnosed 18 years ago with lupus. So she is our, lupus expert on the show. That doesn't mean she has only had lupus for 18 years. She's had lupus for pretty much forever.
Yes.
She's had lupus for a really long time. And so she's going to talk a little bit about, lupus itself and how you get diagnosed with lupus, how, you go through the process of, the diagnosis process is long and it's difficult. So we want to make sure we cover that and what the symptoms are with lupus. And because there are many symptoms of lupus, and it can often get mixed up with other chronic illnesses, and what the treatments are, because that's always important, and kind of living with lupus, because obviously 18 years and beyond that, you've lived with lupus a long time, but that life doesn't end when you get diagnosed,
right?
It continues on. So we're going to talk about all of those things and, and how it's impacted Nicole's life a little bit. So let's get started.
Yes.
Hello, Nicole.
Hello,
welcome
everybody.
To your show.
Oh, hello. I'm famous.
You are. Oh my gosh.
I am famous. I love
it. Welcome to your own show.
Welcome to my own show.
Yay. Okay, so let's go back. Let's talk about what lupus is before we start talking about your story.
Yes, definitely. Lupus.
So tell us what lupus is.
Okay, per the Lupus Foundation of America, which is a wonderful resource, lupus is a chronic, long-term disease that can cause inflammation, swelling, and pain to any part of your body. It's an autoimmune disease, so there is no cause or no cure, and it just turns itself on for no reason. They have no idea why this happens. It is, and again, it's not contagious. It's not like HIV, which is acquired immune. So it's something you catch. So with lupus, it means that your immune system's healthy tissues are being attacked by your own body. Your own body recognizes any tissue in your body as a foreign invader. And it can affect your skin, joints, internal organs, any single part of your body.
So it means your body hates you.
Basically, yep, it sure does.
Which is, by the way, what I text Nicole probably on a daily basis.
Yes.
Oh, Nicole, your body hates you. Okay.
Oh, yes.
No, yes. Okay. So your body basically doesn't like itself quite often, and finds ways to attack itself.
and sees itself as its own invader. And it causes certain things to happen in the body. So certain symptoms will be indicative of having lupus.
Absolutely.
And it can impact any part of the body, basically. So, but one of the most common symptoms of lupus is pain.
Yes.
Just super fun because, as we all know, like, pain is probably the biggest indicator of most of our chronic illnesses.
Exactly.
So it's super fun. Like, when you have lupus, you go to the doctor and you're like, I have pain.
Yeah.
And they're like, you have arthritis. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because like, one of the things that affects the most is joints.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get painful or swollen joints.
Yes. Sometimes people have skin pain, they have muscle pain. You can have migraines. Lupus can cause all kinds of little funky
lupus
symptoms.
migraines are pretty common.
Oh, yes. 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 And there's no just one test that doctors can do to tell you have lupus. So your doctor will look at your symptoms, your medical history, results of lab tests like the ANA or the AVISE test, and also your complements.
Okay, so what are some of those complements?
That's what the test is actually called. It's called complements.
Okay, so they do a complement test. They do the ANA test. The ANA is still I shouldn't say still fairly new, but it's a newer test. It didn't used to be that way. So people who are getting tested now are very lucky that they get the ANA test, to be honest, because it didn't used to be that way. Back in the day.
It's so true.
It used to be just lupus was a disease that was one of those chronic illnesses where it was a rule out illness. You ruled everything else out, and if you couldn't find anything, you were like, you have lupus.
That's right.
That's right. And it's kind of why some old school doctors or old school nurses still kind of believe that lupus doesn't exist. There's this pervasive belief in parts of the medical community that lupus is a made-up illness.
That's right.
And it's not real, and it's just kind of like a bucket list illness because they can't figure out what these other diseases are.
It's so true.
Which is a horrible thing to believe, because people really have these symptoms, they really have this illness, and they need treatment. And it's rude, and it's a terrible thing to say to somebody.
Yes,
but it gets said, and unfortunately, in the chronic illness community, we have to develop a thick skin.
Yes.
But the ANA test is very helpful.
It is. It's the anti-nuclear antibodies test. Yes. And they're looking for anti-nuclear antibodies in your blood.
Correct.
Yes.
And that's been very, very helpful in diagnosing lupus for a lot of patients. I don't know the specific statistic, but it's not the be all end all test for lupus. No. And we need to be really clear on that.
No.
It does not show up for all patients.
No. I'm somebody who doesn't, I believe I only had one abnormal when I was very first diagnosed. The doctor said, he's like, an ANA just means there's some autoimmune issues going on. We don't know which one yet. And I think say, for example, if the test was like 5 to 126, you score, and that's like the normal range. I was at 2,500. So he knew something was going on, and he sent me right to a rheumatologist, which is the doctor that would diagnose lupus.
And the other thing they're looking for too is like inflammation. They're looking for strange white cell counts.
So look for your inflammation markers. Yep. White blood cells.
So they're looking at a lot of different things. They look for anything they can find that looks abnormal in all of these tests that they do, but it doesn't mean, again, that they're going to come back abnormal. All of us in the chronic illness community, we know that we can feel miserable, and we can be in terrible pain, not able to breathe, not able to move, and all of our tests can come back normal.
Yes.
And it's a horrible, horrible feeling.
It is, because, I think with doctors, the reason why, there's a lot of people in the medical field saying, oh, no, this can't be real, because there's nothing definitive. It's a mixture of things. It's symptoms. It's, could be rashes on your face, could be your blood work. It could be all of them. It could be none of them.
It could also be your blood work that day.
Yeah, it could be. And lupus is considered the great imitator. So it's very hard to get an accurate diagnosis.
Yeah.
Having a good rheumatologist is key.
And we did that episode on how to talk to your doctor and how to, kind of push back on it. Like the whole episode isn't about how to push back on your doctor, but how to talk to your doctor and finding a doctor that you can be communicative with.
Yes.
You can have a conversation with, because when you're having these symptoms, it's really important to make sure that you're asking questions, that you're like, but I'm having these symptoms. Why? Like, because a lot of doctors are going to try and move on to the next patient. They're trying to get through their patient list for the day, but that's just not how our symptoms work.
Nope.
There's so many question marks when it comes to us, and when it comes to lupus, there's a huge number of question marks.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it is just not always definitive.
Very much so.
So like, even if you get a positive ANA, there's not like, it's like with anything, one lupus patient is not like another lupus patient.
Nope. You could have fibromyalgia, you could have, rheumatoid arthritis, you know what I mean? So there's a bunch of things that, the ANA could signify, that's going on.
Exactly. So, it comes down to, like, again, having a good rheumatologist who's really going to do everything they can to make sure you're getting the right diagnosis. And Nicole, in your case, it's also getting you the right treatment plan, because for you, they were worried it might be RA or lupus, and medication, choosing the right medication was really important.
Absolutely.
And could have been deadly if
it could have.
I think that I think in the case of lupus, like you said, it's a great imitator. It's already hard. Like, it's so hard to get diagnosed no matter what type of chronic illness we have. But when your disease imitates other diseases, now you've got a problem, because you're chasing down a bunch of rabbit holes. You've got gopher holes in your backyard.
Absolutely.
One after another.
Yes.
Now you're like, oh, well, we think it's that. Oh, wait, no, not that. Well, we think it's that. No, it was. And it took you how long to get diagnosed?
3 years.
3 years. And that's short.
A lot. I think I read the average was like 5 years or something. It was either 5 or 3 to 5. It was quite like a long time. And the number of rheumatologists that the average patient will go through before they get a correct diagnosis is like around 3. That's unfortunate, but not all doctors are built the same.
Yeah. No. Oh my gosh. No. Sorry. By the way, this is not to say all doctors are bad.
No, not at all.
And in no way, shape, or form are we saying all doctors are bad. There can be very good doctors who are not good at this.
Yes.
Like, they are good at their jobs and they are good at what they do for the average patient, or just not good for lupus patients or chronically ill patients, or, I think we need to be clear on that. And I think we were kind of mean a little bit in our doctor episode. There are very good doctors out there.
There are many.
Are good at chronically ill patients.
Right.
Like, I saw plenty of doctors when I felt I was healthier that did great things.
Oh yeah.
For me. But I would never go back to them now as a chronically ill patient, because I need doctors who can spend a lot more time with me.
Absolutely.
You go to different doctors for different things. So I need doctors who will sit down and have conversations with me. And yeah, that's why you go through a rheumatologist that is better equipped to deal with you. Like, you have to remember, a rheumatologist is normally trained to deal more with like arthritis and stuff like that. Not all of them are. I mean, I know that they go through training and chronic illness is part of their training, but some of them really just want to deal with arthritis patients.
Yeah. And nowadays, most rheumatologists are equipped to deal with all autoimmune diseases, but, you know, it doesn't mean that you're going to get a good rheumatologist. You know, I've heard a lot of stories, and I'm telling you, the first 2 doctors I saw, that they were complete idiots. I hate to say it that way, but they were. I mean, they were dismissive. They basically were scratching their head. Yeah, not sure. We can just, you know, hang out and, you know, we'll just keep a watch on you. It's probably nothing. Or, you know, they just were very dismissive, and it was an awful experience. Well, you know, one lady was like, oh yeah, you got RA. Don't worry about it. I'll just put you on some medicine. She didn't even want to look into other things. I was like, no. So I went to the city. I went to a university hospital because they tend to have better doctors. I mean, because they see more than the average suburban doctor does. Because
and that's part of it too, is like some doctors you see just don't have the experience dealing with it. Like they really, like, you may start with a rheumatologist that only sees like elderly patients. Well,
that's right.
You know what? That's not going to work for you.
No.
You know, you may start with the doctor that only sees RA patients, but you have lupus.
That's right. And there are some rheumatologists that are lupus specialists.
Yes.
You know, so, but here's the thing, is usually when you're first getting a diagnosis, you're not going to know what you have. So you just see it, you know, so when you see a rheumatologist, I always encourage people, make sure you get 2 or 3 opinions, because it really is good to talk to multiple doctors about what they think and their experiences.
Yes. Because again, we're often like poking at gopher holes. Okay. So some other symptoms of lupus that are pretty common are the lupus rash. The I think they call it a wolf rash or butterfly rash.
They call it the butterfly rash, which is normally on your cheeks.
Yeah.
And they can be open. They can be an open rash, or it can just be like I can't think of the name right now because my brain fog is killing me. But it can just be more bumpy. And that's what mine is. Like, it's real red. I look like I blush all the time, and I can feel the bumps. Sometimes once in a blue moon, 1 or 2 of them will open up. But I've seen some people that had lupus more in people. There's 4 types of lupus. There's discoid, neonatal, medication-induced, and systemic lupus. So, you know, depending on the kind of lupus you have, I've seen people with discoid lupus, which is only skin lupus, and they've had to be placed in the burn unit because the damage was so extensive.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, absolutely horrible. You know, the average you'll get, you know, the average person has, like you said before, chronic joint pain, chronic fatigue. You can have skin issues, sun sensitivity, dizziness, migraines, neuropathy, a lot of fatigue, cognitive dysfunction, mouth sores. Those are just some things. You can also have inner organ failure. And that can be any single one of your organs. A friend of mine who had a severe case, and I've had many, many friends who have lupus that have never had one problem. Like all they had was joint pain. They had nothing at all. They worked a full-time job, never interfered with their lives. And then I've had other friends. My girlfriend woke up one morning and she was telling me, this is before I had met one of my good friends. She has since passed, but she was paralyzed because lupus had attacked her spinal cord. In the middle of the night. When she passed away, lupus attacked her heart. She went into congestive heart failure and died.
So that's also an extreme case.
Yes, too. That's what I'm saying.
Like
80% of lupus patients will live normal lives if they are treated properly. Another
symptom, some people get like what they call vascular rashes. So like you're gonna have to correct me if I say this wrong, nurse Nicole. Raynaud's phenomenon
is in the finger. Yeah, it's in the lower
fingers where they turn blue, but that's also a common symptom of a few chronic illnesses. But your fingers will turn like red,
and
white,
your toes,
and your toes.
And your lips.
But it is something that it's my understanding though is it's not like a really dangerous thing, but it is kind of disconcerting when your fingers start turning.
It can be dangerous actually if it gets bad enough, but just because of circulation issues. But you know what? It doesn't necessarily go along with lupus. There's a lot of lupus patients who never have Raynaud's.
So pain, chronic fatigue is huge in lupus patients. It's kind of goes along with most of our
chronic illness in general. Yes, that's like the one big thing in chronic illness is that fatigue and that joint pain
and brain fog and brain fog.
Yes.
That's just a big deal in all of them.
It's so true.
And and a lot of us like bruise easily. We tend to like have all kinds of weird, like, what? I don't get it. Like, why do our bodies have to do these things? Come on.
Yeah, seriously.
Silly bodies. But the kidney disease is kind of more common, I think, in lupus than it is in other.
It is. My doctor said that 50% of all people diagnosed with lupus will develop kidney involvement.
Yes. So I think that's kind of I think that is something, so you have to always be a little more careful. Yes. So I think in a lot of our treatments for our chronic illnesses, our treatments, we have to get our kidney or our liver functions tested frequently because of the treatments we're on. But for lupus patients, a lot of times they just have to be tested, period, because of lupus.
Yeah, every 3 months I have my kidneys tested and I have my blood work done, just to make sure. And, like my liver function test, CBC, my complements. I mean, I have everything run. It's ridiculous how much these tests cost too. I have all this stuff run every 3 months and he watches to see if there's any changes.
Yeah.
And just to let everyone know too, that there are, anyone can get lupus, but there is a risk group. It's normally women ages 15 through 44 in certain racial groups like African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic or Latino Americans, Native Americans, or Pacific Islander. So you see lupus much more amongst these groups.
Yes.
Which is so strange.
I don't think they've figured out why yet.
They haven't.
But again, I don't think they've necessarily figured out why, like you see sickle cell in African American groups, in Black groups more too. I think it's still trying to figure out these things. But yeah, you do see lupus in these groups far more often.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, the kidney disease is something a little more common, and it can be monitored and it can be watched, and it's something that, especially if lupus is caught early enough, doctors will pay close attention to.
Yeah.
So let's talk. So the heart is also of a concern to doctors, I think.
You can get blood clots. Sometimes people with lupus get the antiphospholipid antibody or antiphospholipid syndrome, which is like a clotting issue. So sometimes if you have those, you are obviously, there's more of a possibility for you to develop blood clots.
Right. And then there's also lungs, because I know like you have issues with pleurisy periodically.
Yes. Lungs is a huge thing with lupus patients. Lupus patients get pleurisy all the time.
Then there's the cognitive issues. We talked about brain fog a little bit, which is just super fun, guys. Brain fog is just one of our favorite things in the world to get.
So true. So true. So true.
Every one of us loves when we get brain fog and we can't really function well for the day. Come on, guys.
No. And with lupus, like it's crazy because there's only been one medication developed specifically for lupus in the past like 55 years, and that's Benlysta. Which didn't work for me. I guess what I read and what I was hearing from the doctors was that it underperformed what they were hoping for. I have a lot of friends who say it worked great for them. I was in the clinical trial and I took it afterwards. Nothing at all. I did it for 18 months, nothing. So that didn't work for me, but it can work for people, but there are multiple treatments for lupus depending on your symptoms. But the most popular treatment would be an immune suppressant like prednisone. They also give medications that they would give to transplant patients like Cellcept, Prograf. Sometimes you will undergo chemotherapy. Which I've done. I did Rituxan. So Cytoxan is a form of chemo. It's much stronger, and that's usually reserved when patients have inner organ involvement.
So let's talk a little bit about treatment for lupus. You've done all these things. So, but I think for the average lupus patient, when they're first diagnosed, prednisone is that normally what they would first jump at?
The first one they're going to give you is Plaquenil. It is an anti-malarial, but what it's showing is that I think a lot
of people are familiar with Plaquenil now.
Yeah, that's true. Because it's given for so many autoimmune diseases.
Well, not just autoimmune diseases.
With everything with COVID. Yeah.
Because of COVID.
That is so true.
Because I think that was the first thing people thought would like treat COVID, and it turned out that
Not
it didn't
so much.
treat COVID at all.
Yeah, not so much.
No, it didn't really work. But and that's when lupus patients were freaking out, because it
was hard to get the medicine.
It was hard. Yeah, it was really hard for lupus patients to get their medicine, and they were freaking out because they're like, we need this to live.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like, and you guys are taking it even after they found out it didn't work.
That's right. And it took it from us. And, you know, a lot of people got sick because they weren't able to, I had friends that were not able to get their Plaquenil. And some of my friends heavily rely on Plaquenil. They say that if you take Plaquenil, not all people can take it. Some people are allergic to it, or they can't tolerate it. But for the people who do, there was a study, a couple of them, that said that on average, lupus patient will get an average of 10 extra years, like added onto their life, basically.
Wow.
Yeah. So it because what it does is it kind of protects the inner organs. Okay. So now for me, Plaquenil does nothing for me. I'm very fortunate that I don't have inner organ involvement currently, but I mean, like Plaquenil, I could give or take
for that, because you know, you say things and then bad things happen.
I know. My gosh. Knocking now.
Nicole's talking about all these things, and then all of a sudden she's gonna be like, and I now have this, and like, you know, we were talking about Sjogren's syndrome, and she's like, I now have Sjogren's. Okay. Yeah, things come up for her. So let's not all knock on wood for Nicole not to have organ involvement.
Everyone knock for me.
But no, so inner organ. So that Plaquenil helps with the inner organ involvement, and then so that starts with it, and then they move up to what's so that helps with that, but then there's other medications that help with some of the symptom involvement.
Oh yeah, normally what they'll give you next is an immune suppressant medication, like a Cellcept, a methotrexate, Prograf, Imuran. I've been on I've been on every single one of them.
That's because you time out.
I do. My body times out.
By the way, not everybody is Nicole. Not everybody times out of their meds.
Nope. That's just my body.
They'll freak you out thinking you're going to have to be on 72,000 different medications in your lifetime, and you won't. But she times out after a period of time from her medications, and it's a problem for her doctors, and her doctors are like, we need to study you closely because you're a weirdo.
I am. I'm totally a weirdo. I mean, I get like 2 years if I'm lucky, and then everything stops working. And I think my doctor, he's losing hair from me. He's just like, I'm going bald, and it's all your fault. Because I'm telling you, he has done everything humanly possible. He's an amazing doctor. So, you know, it really depends on like what your symptoms are at the time. If you're having what we call a flare up of these symptoms, or if you're just kind of status quo, you know, you can have a biologic. They may give you a biologic, which is given through IV or through a shot. If you develop blood clots and this becomes a problem for you, you'll be put on an anticoagulant. And sometimes if you're flare up, when I have flare ups, they had to put me on steroids. Steroids was it's very common in autoimmune disease. Everybody with autoimmune disease at some point will be on steroids. Some people are on them for a very short amount of time. Some people are on them for maybe 6 months and can come off. I unfortunately react very strangely to prednisone. So this time around, I've been on prednisone probably 10 years, and we switch my dose up and down.
Yeah, you do that. You do that frequently.
Yeah.
While we're talking about treatments, let's talk about flares.
Yes.
Because we do talk about lupus flares. So with lupus, and a lot of times with chronic illness, you'll have good days and bad days. And with lupus, sometimes, and with a lot of these, you'll have good periods and bad periods. And so like, we talk a lot in the lupus community about lupus flares.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about like kind of what a lupus flare can look like?
Absolutely.
What it can involve, like, because there can be like a lupus fever. There can be like, sometimes for some people, it's almost like a flu comes on. You'll start feeling like you have a cold, or for some people, it's pain. For some people, like, and then it can last for like a day to like weeks or months.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. With a lupus flare, and everyone's flares will be different because obviously every lupus patient is different. So when you have a flare up of your symptoms, they get worse. So like for me, I can't get out of bed sometime. I will be in a ton of pain. I I have brain fog. You name it. I mean, the symptoms that I have mouth sores. I also get the rash on my face. I get dizzy. I am extremely sun sensitive. I get migraines. I've had bouts of neuropathy where I had to be on gabapentin for the neuropathy for like 6 months to a year, and then I was fortunately able to come off of it. Joint pain is one of my biggest symptoms, and when I get a real bad flare up, my skin, my muscles, my joints, my body hurts so bad. I can't be touched. I don't even want to lay down and have the sheet touch me. So, and I have another friend of mine, her flare-ups consist of joint pain and fatigue. That's it. That's what she gets. But they're extreme, but those are her two symptoms. So everybody's different.
Right. But you've had them last, what's your longest flare that you've had?
A year and a half. A year and a half, which is, and it was during that year and a half, it was pretty constant. I think I had a week here or there where I was okay, but for the most part, the past year and a half, this is the worst flare I've ever had in my life with lupus.
Because you're currently in one.
Yes.
Yep.
That's why we had to double the prednisone, and that's what helps keep me functioning. So
yeah,
I mean,
if you come down from the prednisone, you can't function.
No, and for me, unfortunately, I can't come off of it. When they try to even get me down by 1 milligram, my body freaks out. I mean, the pain is so bad, and I get so sick. My other major symptom is I feel like I have a flu, and I have the flu. It feels like I have the flu severely. So I am just miserable when I have these flare-ups.
So, I mean, you guys can see that like with lupus, it's not just like one symptom, one issue, one thing. It can have a whole slew of different symptoms that come together to form this whole disease. And it affects people in very, very different ways. So when you're treating it, there's the different treatments are very individualized to the person, which is why it's so important that like it's you and your doctor working together on a treatment plan for you. So like, Nicole went through a lot of different treatments for people, but it's very individualized to you. It's, you could be on the steroidal medication, you can be on
like the immune suppressants.
Thank you.
Yes. We both have our brain fog going today.
Oh my gosh, it's been terrible today, you guys. Like I have been pausing so much, and Nicole and I had a moment before the show where I was trying to find a word, and I was like, it's somewhere between this word and this word. And I gave her like both of where I was, and then she was like, yeah, I know which word you're talking about. And she couldn't think of it either.
I know.
We sat for a good, like, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes trying to figure out which word it was.
We sure did.
It was terrible. Oh my gosh. So sorry, guys who are listening to the show. This is the date we're having. Sorry. Yes. So it's that kind of, so glad we're giving you this informational episode today. So we have these treatments. And they can be even more extreme, like people who've gone on the extreme end of this spectrum. There's been lupus patients who have needed kidney transplant.
Yes, sure have.
But those
lung
are
transplants.
Extreme.
Yeah.
Those are extreme patients.
Yes.
But the more minor patients, it's lupus is managed with medications, frequent doctor visits, frequent testing. And that's managing lupus. Like
it is.
Exercising, good diets.
Which is extremely important in lupus because we have such high levels of inflammation, which, is also related to heart attacks and strokes. And so diet is very important with lupus. A lot of lupus patients will do an anti-inflammatory way of eating, an anti-inflammatory or a detox diet, because taking extra inflammation away from your body can help with your pain. So that's extremely important. Watching like things that they call nightshades. Nightshades are a group of foods that can have been known to flare lupus or flare other conditions.
Can you say what type, like give us some examples of nightshades?
Yes. One example would be eggplant.
Yes.
That's one example. Also tomatoes. And also, trying to think of the other ones, what I can't have, that I cut out. There's so many. Oh, you know what? Alfalfa sprouts is a huge one.
I didn't know about alfalfa sprouts.
Yeah.
I knew about eggplant.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
peppers, like green peppers, red peppers, those are real big. Tobacco is also a very
man, I'm gonna stop eating
inflammatory.
that tobacco plant in
I
my
know.
backyard.
I'm sorry. It's not a food, but I just want to let you know tobacco is one of them too.
Not a problem.
Yes. So those are some, I mean, you can always Google, give you the full list of what nightshades are, but nightshades will cause, and a lot of lupus patients will cause a flare up. So they want you to watch what you eat. Also exercise.
But by the way, just as a disclaimer, we're not telling you to stop eating foods, by the way, because you need to talk to your doctor or nutritionist about these foods. Because like Nicole may say that these like tomatoes are part of the nightshade family and cause inflammation, but I need to eat tomatoes like crazy because of how my digestive system works. So
you always have to check with your doctor.
Like, always check with your doctor before you cut or add any food to your diet.
Yes. And do your own research so you can bring this stuff into your, and here's the thing, doctors don't have tons and tons of education on nutrition. So they will refer you should always ask to be referred to a nutritionist. It is extremely important. And if you can, ask to be referred to a functional medicine nutritionist, because they really interact mostly with foods and inflammation. Exercise is important also, because if you don't move at all, your joints kind of lock. You know what I mean? Like you start losing more your ability to move as much, just like with a healthy person. And I know people always say, how am I going to exercise if I'm in so much pain? That's a very good point. You just do what you can. If you can go for a walk, in the evening when it's cool and the sun is down, that's really important. If you could walk around your house or walk up and down the stairs a couple times, that's important.
There's chair exercises.
There's chair exercises. Yes, there is. There's chair aerobics, which is very, very, very low impact. I do low impact exercise because when I try high impact, oh my God, do I flare.
And by the way, a lot of lupus patients have arthritis and those type of things added on top of, by the way, lupus a lot of times doesn't come by itself. It comes with all kinds of other things, just like EDS. EDS doesn't come by itself, kids. It comes with like all kinds of other fun things added to it.
It's so true. They say with an autoimmune disease, you generally have two. Yeah. If you have one, you'll usually get another one.
Comes at least in pairs.
It's true.
And so because lupus comes with these other things, and arthritis can be one of them, movement is really important. So like water aerobics is great. Like buoyancy, and because you're in the water, it gives you really great resistance, but you don't even realize you're going through the resistance.
No, and you don't have the same impact on your joints as if you were jumping around.
But anything really like with high impact is really not good for anybody's joints.
It's not.
And I don't care what they say about running. I don't know how some of these people who have been running for years do not have serious damage to their joints.
Oh my gosh, especially their hips and their knees. Oh my goodness.
I know. I'm like, no. Do you have hips and knees of power? Like
seriously?
Because honest to goodness, like mine are already falling apart. I don't get it.
But mine too.
Blessings to you. Blessings to you. I can't do it, but water aerobics, I can do.
Yes,
honey. I go in the water with the 80 and 90-year-olds, and I'm like, I love you all. And by the way, they water aerobic the heck out of me. Those older people put me to shame.
Oh my gosh, me too. When I used to do water aerobics, I was like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? These people are kicking my butt.
Oh yeah. By the way, when I could work out, like I say, a normal person, I used to work out next to this guy, and I swear he was like 70, 80 years old. And I'd get on the Stairmaster next to him, and I'd be going along, and I'm like, I'm on my Stairmaster. I'm just going, boom, boom, boom. And he'd get on the Stairmaster next to me, and he'd be like, boom, 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 boom.
Like, just blow you away.
I'm like a $102 and I'm fit, and like I got my 6-pack going on. That's when I was like super fit, guys. And he's like got like 60 years on me. Come on. What? should have been a sign then that I had like EDS, because I couldn't do like super high impact anything back then.
I couldn't either.
I mean, he was kicking my rear end on this thing.
I have no doubt.
What is happening right now?
Like, then you start feeling embarrassed. I'm like, oh my gosh, seriously? You know, I'm like 40 years younger than this guy, and he's seriously just and cruising along, not heavy breathing or nothing, which kills me.
Right. Totally.
And I'm like,
but I'll tell you what, guys, never compare yourself to anybody else.
Never.
Ever. Like,
ever.
It's a funny story I tell because there was such a serious age gap between us. And I tell it because at the time I was a super fitness person. And I really should put up pictures of, I wish I had taken a picture of him at the time, because it's really funny, but it also tells you just don't compare yourself to someone else. That's right.
It's your journey. Your journey's
individual. It's your journey, and you do what you can do wherever you are. If all you can do is move your fingers for that day, move your fingers.
That's right.
I don't care.
That's right.
Like just
some movement.
Movement's
important.
Something move.
Yes.
Because it really does help you, and it keeps you loose. Like there are some days that I couldn't go for a walk, but I could stretch and it made me feel better.
Yes. Yes, me too.
Of course, I'm also EDS, so stretching is a whole other ball of wax for me. But no, with lupus, so exercise, like that's one of the number one things that they tell you with lupus is to keep yourself moving.
Yeah, keep those joints.
Keep yourself moving, eat healthy.
Yes.
That's really big. You know, medications are going to help you through it, but they have to be designed for what your lupus needs are. And again, like most of our chronic illnesses, it's really also about doing what you can do and knowing what your limitations are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the key to living your normal lupus life, because one person's normal lupus life is not going to be another person's normal lupus life.
Right. Very true.
You know, like you said earlier, you have friends who have lupus that are working 40-hour work weeks.
Yeah.
Basically, their life is almost
normal.
A perfectly normal everyday person. They just take some medication for lupus.
It's really important to also, another thing is to manage your stress. Stress can cause a lot of flares. So we're very, very sensitive to stress. So learning self-care techniques is very important. It really is important to manage that and to get all the support you can, because there's many places online strictly for lupus patients where you can go to get support. And all you have to do is go to the Lupus Foundation of America website, and they will start listing all these places for you.
So stress is a big key for, and I think we talk about this almost every week.
Yeah,
is stress and how it impacts us. But with lupus, it can trigger a flare in an instant.
Yes.
Like I've talked to a lot of people who have lupus, and they really have to do a lot to keep their stress level down.
Most definitely.
So yeah, meditation, yoga is really great.
Yep.
Therapy.
Yes.
Still advocating therapy, guys.
Yes.
I'm gonna do it all the time.
Love my therapist. Love her.
Get a therapist.
Yes.
To keep that stress level down, because it does cause inflammation. Stress is, I could do an entire episode on stress and the impact. We should do an entire episode on stress.
We should. That's a great idea.
Guys, we're going to do an episode sometime in the future on stress and the impact on the body.
Yes.
Because it is huge what stress does to the body.
Yes. Stress and
not
lack
just
of
for
sleep.
us, just for healthy people, but you take a healthy person and you see what it does to the body. Now you multiply that exponentially as to what it does for people with chronic illness.
Very much so.
It's huge. But with lupus patients, it is insanely important that they reduce their stress.
Most definitely.
Because you're talking about not just inflammation, you're talking about an immune response and to what it triggers in the body. So you're not just talking about joints inflaming and getting achy, you can be talking about organ failure.
That's right.
And that's really serious.
Yes.
And so Yeah, finding ways to reduce your stress, and hopefully not by eating cupcakes and cookies,
Exactly.
which might be what Kelly did yesterday.
That sounds so good right now. Oh my, if I had cupcakes right now, I would eat all of them.
I did not eat cupcakes. I might have eaten a Danish Kringle from Trader Joe's.
Oh,
I did not eat the whole thing, guys. I really just ate a small piece of it.
it sounds so good. I really surprisingly don't miss sugar, but it's once in a blue moon, someone will say something. I'm like, I could really go for a cupcake. Now I got to make a paleo cupcake.
I had a cup of iced coffee that I made myself
Oh,
with
yum.
one piece of the cheesy Danish Kringle and a peanut butter chocolate chip cookie.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
And I felt so horribly guilty that after I had that, I had some green juice. You guys, like, I don't do well when I like quote unquote cheat. Like, it just like, and I don't do this very often. So
No.
I really don't.
Yeah, it's important to watch for those things, and
Yeah.
Also to get enough sleep. Sleep is important, although people with lupus
Oh my
tend to have
gosh.
sleep disturbances.
Oh my gosh, sleep disturbances are huge.
Yes.
By the way. And sleep disturbances can be caused, like, and here's the other side, like when you're put on medications, when you're put on meds, these things also come along with our meds too. So with lupus patients, when you're talking about being put on steroids, when you're talking about being put on different medications, sleep disturbances, cravings. Oh my gosh, Nicole, can you please, like, steroids and cravings?
Oh my, it's unbearable. It's unbearable.
Right? So these things come along with these medications. So you really have to watch out for some of these things.
Yeah.
And sleep is a huge, huge issue. If you don't get enough sleep, your body breaks down also. It's worse than stress. Actually, yeah, it's worse than stress.
Oh yeah.
But you've got to get enough sleep. And you have to set good routines for yourself. It's funny when you're diagnosed with things like lupus or these chronic illnesses, how you have to restructure your life. And I'm going to keep repeating it with lupus. This is an autoimmune disease. This is a disease that attacks your own body. So
that's right.
You have to do everything you can to try and take care of yourself with this disease. But you can live a normal life with this disease. Like, I don't want to close out this show without, like, making it clear. We've talked about some really terrible things that can happen with lupus, but this isn't a disease where your life is totally over when you're diagnosed.
That's right.
Most people live a fairly normal, not normal, but like a fairly good life with lupus. Like, I have friends who are, working, have kids, married, have careers, all that stuff, and they have lupus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nicole is sitting here on the show talking to all of you. She's an old lady. What are you guys talking about? She's old.
That's right.
And she's got lupus.
That's right.
I've known her forever. She has lupus. What do you guys, but like, you can live a long life. You can live pretty normal, even if, like, lupus does set you back a little bit here and there. It's not a setback forever.
No.
You can bounce back from those setbacks for the most part, and it's treatable. You have to work hard with your doctors. You might have to advocate for yourself. Find yourself a support group. There's great groups, again, on Facebook. Like, for all of the evils of Facebook, groups are a whole different world.
Oh yeah.
Like, Facebook groups for people with chronic illnesses, for people with lupus, fantastic. And there are so many great groups on Facebook for people to come together who have lupus. You can find groups in your area.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And get together with people who have lupus. Now, mind you, maybe wait a little bit until, like, things settle down with the pandemic.
Yeah, that's why I don't go. A lot of the support groups actually have gone online. There's local support groups. There's state, like state support groups. There's other specific websites that are only for lupus patients. Again, if you go to the Lupus Foundation of America, they list them, and you can join. The Facebook groups are wonderful. I mean, managing any chronic disease, you need support. You need rest. And I know this sounds like I'm simplifying, and I'm not trying to, because I understand how hard it really is to have a chronic disease and be stressed out about money and how sick you are, and support and friendships and everything else. But it truly can be done. It's finding your tribe, the people that are going to support you and care for you. Make sure that you're getting rest, make sure that you're putting yourself first. It's very important.
Absolutely. And Nicole's not saying in a selfish way. Like, you obviously, you can still take care of the people around you. You can still care for them. You can still love them. But you can't sacrifice yourself, and you can't sacrifice your health. It's, again, the whole airplane metaphor. You got to put your own mask on first before you can put anyone else's mask on. Because if you don't put your own mask on first, you can't save anybody. Because you're going to pass out.
That's right.
So put your own mask on first.
Absolutely.
That's what we're going to have for today, guys. I'm really happy that Nicole kind of got to tell her story. And talk about like her journey a little bit with lupus. I mean, obviously with every episode, you guys find out more and more and more about like our own journeys. That's but you got to hear this month about like our chronic illnesses that are near and dear. To us both. So weird. I thought we'd get to spread these out over the year.
Know, right? I didn't know that we both had our illnesses in the same month. I think that's crazy. I love it.
So
we're twinsies.
I'd normally say thank you for coming on the show, but no, whatever. This is what you have to do. So I'm not doing this by myself.
No.
So I'm going to say thank you all for listening.
Yes, thank you.
And we really hope you guys have a great week. Again, I'm going to plug it every week. We still have the planner available.
Yes.
Digital format, quarterly hard copy format. That's going to be in the show notes. And we just appreciate you guys. We appreciate you following us through this journey. We appreciate you guys listening
very much.
And if you guys want to talk more about lupus, if you guys have more questions about lupus, or even EDS, whatever you guys have questions on, we have the Facebook page, we have the Facebook group. Come on, chat with us. We're in there every day. We're ready to talk about things. There's so many questions about these rare diseases that we are more than willing to have conversations about them.
Absolutely.
So we love you guys. Have a great week.
Have a great week, you guys. Bye-bye.